First, hello everyone. It's an honor to be speaking with all of you today. I'm the founder of Trick or Treat, which is a catering company. It's a Lebanese-born and based catering company that specializes in healthy, nutritious, natural, organic food for kids mainly. Our business have been going through a lot of challenges, like most Lebanese businesses, for the past year or so, since the economic crisis started surfacing in Lebanon. And then came COVID-19 and things started getting much, much worse. A lot of people were getting laid off work. A lot of families who were doing okay started struggling even more. So basically, as a mother myself and an entrepreneur, I felt that I had a responsibility. I had to do something. And as a business that is mostly specialized in feeding kids nutritious food, and we're really very passionate about getting healthy food for kids, we felt responsible to be helped in any way, basically to provide children and families in Lebanon with food securities that they were lacking and they are still lacking. We started this fundraising. We have a central kitchen, we have a staff. We felt also responsible towards our own employees because they all have families that depend on them and depend on our business as well. We decided that we have to do something. We have to use our kitchen and our knowledge and whatever resources we have to help. That's why we started fundraising, and we set up a GoFundMe page, and we are using all the donations we collect to cook healthy meals. We're working with local NGOs that we personally trust to get those meals to the right families, the families that are most in need. And we hope to be able to feed as many families as possible on a daily basis. We also hope to be able to keep our employees secure and to be able to employ even more people, because a lot of families, especially now after the horrible explosion that happened, even more families and people are unemployed. Really, Lebanon needs all the help possible. And this is how we can help, because we have the resources, we have the knowledge, and we have the kitchen. So that's what we're doing.
Thank you in general for organizing this wonderful gathering that brings us all together. So yeah, everyone, hello. My name is Enes Koudis. I have the wonderful honor to moderate a conversation with the brilliant Salim Azzam, the Lebanese designer behind the socially conscious brand inspired by his local traditions and heritage. I'm, like Lara said, a huge fan, but also a friend and proud owner of a few items from his collection. For those of you that do not know Salim Azzam, he grew up in the Lebanese mountain village of Shouf. He studied graphic design and illustration in Canada, but always remembered the stories of the women from his village, which he had a close relationship to. As an up-and-coming designer, his work has been worn by the fashion icon that you all probably know, Queen Rania of Jordan. His work was featured in publications such as Vogue.it, Harper's Bazaar Arabia, and Al Arab Al Jadid. He's also one of the winners of the prestigious Fashion Trust Arabia. And a part of his collection is available on matchesfashion.com. We'll probably share a link to that at a later stage. And make absolutely sure to follow him on Instagram at Azzam Salim. I promise you, it's a beautiful curation of not just his beautiful work, but also stories of the women he works with. Salim, it's truly wonderful to have you here with us. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much. So much for this introduction.
Of course. I have a bunch of questions for you. I think there's so many that we probably won't get to all of them, but we'll see how far we can get. Salim, let's start with this one. Every designer has a story, a source of inspiration. And I mentioned in your introduction that you grew up in the Lebanese mountain village. You grew up amongst women practicing embroidery. And as you said in an interview, embroidery was something they needed to learn before they got married. Can you please tell us more about your upbringing in the mountains and how this has impacted you and your design?
Yeah. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I have to apologize for the bad lighting. It's PM here and it's not daylight. So I grew up like in the mountains, and I never left until I was 24. Like I would go twice a year to the city, to Beirut, on school trips, and that was it. I grew up here. I had a very, very, very peaceful childhood. I would say a very happy childhood, though this photo doesn't say that. I grew up between farmers, people who had such a great connection with the land, and they've lived very simple lives in harmony with nature. They grow what they eat, and very, very simple ways of living, and very connected. Like everyone cared about everyone. I grew up in a big, big family with a lot of relatives, and this was part of me growing up, you know, staying connected with everyone around me, and always interested in people's stories. So whenever I'm in the village, someone would you know, share stories, and a lot of connections. And I wanted to show you this illustration because it's like one of the very first illustrations that I've done. And you can tell from it that I was very much inspired by where I grew up. The fact that I did not leave the mountains a lot because my mom never drove a car and my father lived abroad. All my inspiration came from that world around me. And we had to create, you know, like a beautiful things out of literally nothing. So I grew up around all these women that actually loved craft, and there has always been that women, you know, sitting there doing either embroidery or crochet or a different sort of craft. Like people really enjoy doing things with their hands, whether it was just food or money or craft. So I grew up around that type of universe. So Anas, you mentioned something related to embroidery and the women of the region. So craft is one of those, I think, that it was a thing to learn, and it was, I would definitely say it was very much specific to women, and women had to learn how to embroider before marriage. We got to that at a later stage, which I found problematic because it's one of the reasons why people stopped or lost the interest in the craft, because it was very much related, you know, to a skill of a woman that she had to learn before she used to get married. So I'm showing you a very, very typical pillowcases that each bride has to do, and these very typical colors, which is blue and pink, and houses, and definitely see crochet on every single aspect of it, even in the religious context. Like I'm showing you a very a religious book here, covered in a book that is done by hand. There's always a woman behind the machine. Back in the days here, it was like a thing where when a woman gets married, the groom has to get her a sewing machine before they even move in together. And it was a way for the women to actually create and sew and know how to do all these things. So yeah, I mean, I grew up in this world where where craft has always been there, I would say.
Thank you so much for sharing those pictures, Salim. Really gives us a visual of what that world was like for you. And then you mentioned you've been there for such a long time, and then at one point you decide to go study in Canada, a completely different world. Can you tell us about what that was like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I actually did my first degree in graphic design in the mountains. And then when I graduated, I wanted to do fashion at some point in my life, but there was this force that, like, you know, did not allow me, which was like, you know, being a man from a village in the mountains where people are very conservative, and, you know, they're like, you know, fashion is, for me, fashion was not even an option to think of. So I ended up doing graphic design, but in the back of my design practice, I did not forget the connection that I talked about growing up in the mountains, because I've always felt, you know, the love coming from the community, and I've always wanted to, you know, do something for them or show them what I can do using design. And then I did my master's in Canada in visual communications, which is also master's, like my master's in design, has nothing to do with fashion. And in Canada, I got introduced to, you know, the design practice that focuses on people's need, design practices that aren't necessarily focused on the fact, like on consumption, and that's where my design practice shifted, and I wanted to come back and apply it into something. I didn't know that I was going to do fashion, but I knew for a fact after this degree that I just really want to use design as a way to highlight things about our society and share beautiful things about our society. And there's a lot to share. I mean, I've always felt as a graphic designer that I never wanted to do just, branding. I mean, I wanted to use it as a way to, express the beauty of the world that I grew up in. Major culture shock moving to Canada, that's for sure. But I loved it, and I'm sure it has really enriched me. And my thesis was very much related to my village. So I documented stories of people and I illustrated them. And then I flew back here because I kind of felt that what I do belongs here, and I wanted to do something for this country, and that was in 2014.
You touched upon this slightly, but if you can go a bit deeper into what you said about wanting to give back to your people and where you came from. I know that you believe in design for change, for progress, and for good. How did this mantra help you and inspire you to create?
So coming back here, this is how the entire passion story started. I had a cousin that supports her family, and I've seen my cousin working in embroidery for a long time. Like, I grew up seeing her changing, aging. I saw her without the glasses, and then I saw her with the glasses, and then I saw the glasses on the end of her nose. And I knew that she made a living out of it. And over coffee conversations with her, she started telling me about the issues arising in, people not getting job opportunities related to the craft. And one of the reasons why this happened is because after war and with the economic crisis, the demand has changed. And what was really the butter on the bread for all these women fallen into the outdated category, and people lost interest. And there have been 3 massive ateliers in the Shouf area that had employed around 200 women each. And now in the current situation, they had only 11 people. So, and that happened for so many reasons. People have been using this craft as a way for years to express, like, women use these type of crafts to express themselves, to celebrate life in different ways, to represent family affiliations. So when a newborn comes to life, they would create like all of a set for it, whether it's marriage and even funerals. Crafts have been used as a way for all these women to express themselves and, of course, make an income out of them. With time, this stopped becoming modern, and all these curtains and tablecloths became forgotten pieces that you see at the home, but you don't even notice. And the resources that those women had in the villages did not allow them to take that craft into another level to make it current and modern. And seeing that happening around me, I couldn't tear my head away from it. I'm like, I have to do something for it. And that's where my interest in fashion kind of came back. I've always been the child who would play football but run away to sew like doll's clothes, not my cousin may soon. Like, it's there, And I'm like, and I have this moment, I'm like, what if the mindset completely changed and we take this craft out of its traditional context, which is display pieces, and allow these beautiful embroidery to become wearable pieces and stories that would travel and live between the people, not in Shouf, not in Beirut, but also in the world. And that was the moment where I realized I had to bring in back my fashion interest with this very great special cause that probably came from learning all about graphic design for social change. And this is how it all started. Started off with 3 women. It was easy. It wasn't an easy start at all. Like, I had to understand completely the way they work, which I have to mention for our guests today, that when we say embroidery in the Middle East, it really had a lot of coding, talking a bit about the history of the craft. So each area in Lebanon or each area in the Middle East, they have a specific way of embroidering. They have a different set of stitches. They have a different set of motifs that mean the specific way. Flowers means different things. Birds means different things. And for me to be able to work with these women, I had to really learn how to respect the craft, understand how they work, understand their language. And they also had to change their mindset. So it wasn't easy at all at the beginning. It took us around 3 collections for us to become somehow a sync, that I would also understand the way they work. So when I'm designing, I think on their behalf and I color in the direction of their needles. And it only got better out of there. Like, every collection is an opportunity for us to merge our forces and bring in new things and see different ways of possibly working together.
It sounds like it's almost everything coming full circle, you being inspired by these women, getting ideas through your education and coming back and potentially re-inspiring them. Thanks for sharing how that inspiration worked for you. Maybe we can move on and talk a little bit more about your designs. You touched upon them right now, but what I think is fascinating about your design is this unique combination of three large elements. Like one is the actual fabrics and cuts that you use, two is the embroidery, and then there's the imagery and stories that they tell. Can you give us a little bit more of a story behind that, and why in particular you chose for this?
Yeah. So I kept it simple. As a person who did not study fashion, I really knew what I wanted in the sense of how simple I wanted my art piece to be. Growing up around all these women who dress in a specific type of way, and I'm talking about the Druze community, women wear these black shirts, black skirts with a big white veil, and men wear a shirwel, which is also in black with a black top. So growing up around all these women, it was so hard for me not to notice the white and the purity it represents and the authenticity of it. So when I wanted to start my collections, I went to white, and white has been our basic baseline fabric. It's our classic. And I'm showing you this photo because I was very much inspired by the shapes of those veils, the oversize of them, how they don't allow you to literally observe a curve of your body. And this is why you would notice. It took me some time to notice that I actually create oversized pieces because I grew up around women that doesn't really wear clothes that are specifically tied to their bodies. And it's just amazing to see how your mind works when you're creating. Subconsciously, some of your design decisions come from things that you see around you. So I'm showing you this photo. On the left side is the traditional shirwel. On the right side is my take on the shirwel. And for me, I mean, the inspiration of embroidery literally came from everything around me. So how can you see this and not create this? You know, like I was very much inspired, even in my illustration work, with everything that I observed as a child. And this is why you would notice that in my collections, there's just a lot of trees, fruits, birds, stories of the hyenas running after chickens and humans in the village, and all these like winter stories. And even like, you know, the best of what these people shared, and this is like some, you know, natural herbs, and it's represented on a skirt. I just wanted to show you those because I feel like all my inspiration when it comes to my clothes is literally from the world that I grew up in. And I really wanted to stay authentic and true to that. So you would see all these like big puffy sleeves with a lot of like, you know, intense embroidery work. It is a very, very, very delicate thing. And we also embroider on 100% cotton. And the craft has also forced us to work with natural fabrics and things that doesn't have plastic and polyester. So we're also taking definitely the sustainable aspect, because the nylon thing in a fabric does allow the needles and makes it harder to embroider. So that's when it comes to my fashion line. I would say it's simple. The attires and the illustration both come from the world that I grew up in.
Wonderful. You touched upon this already in your previous answers about how the women face challenges with this craft. One of your goals is to revive this craft back to. How would you say you're at right now?
Honestly, I always say, like, you know, I would have never been able to do that if I did not, you know, decide to merge forces with the keepers of the craft, you know, the people that makes this project what it is. And it's only been 4 years, and it's just so incredible to see how many people are wanting to join my vision, and they believe in what I do and they want to take part of it. And when I started working, I have to say, and I'm gonna share some photos here, that's my team. And you can tell that they're like all mature women who've been working for years, like 20 and 30 years in these type of skills. And I've noticed throughout my practice that I did not a lot of young people are interested in the craft, and that's majorly because the craft has fallen into this, outdated, it's old, it's for your grandma or for your aunt. And mainly, again, I'll link it back to the idea that, it was linked to marriage and women, and it kind of like made these young people not interested at all. And even men, like you wouldn't see a man embroidering in the mountains. So I really wanted to make this craft cool and remind the people again that it's a way for them to express themselves. It's very therapeutic. It brings you so much calm and joy and satisfaction. And I can tell from the women that I work with, until we recently started having young people interested in joining the team. And that's Aline here. She's only 22. She had a degree in interior design, and she decided that she just loves embroidery and she want to work with us. And each one of those women has a story, and it's just so beautiful to see them coming back and working together. Not just, it stops becoming about the craft and the fashion, but also it becomes about sharing dreams. All these women are not able to, leave their houses a lot or get exposed to the outside world. And for me, it's amazing to feel that the brand have kind of became a channel to these women, a connection to the outside world. The fact that I got to leave that mountain and explore the world, I think they're doing it through their craft. And I always make sure that they are known and people know them on Instagram. Most of them have their own hashtags. People know them by name, know who's recently joined the team. Recently, one of our team members, Sonia, broke her hand, and you just have to see how people on Instagram like showered her with comments and support messages, and it only made her feel so good, and it has helped in her recovery. And we move forward trying to also teach the craft, which I'm going to talk about later on.
That is absolutely wonderful. Salim, thanks for sharing that. I do have a question about these women that you're talking about, because they make up such an important part of your overall brand. You center their stories. If you go through your Instagram account and your website, you openly share their stories. They are visible, they're front and center. Why did you choose to associate them with the brand?
Because literally there wouldn't be a brand without them. There is the one that I love my illustrations, but I love them more when they embroidered them. They've kind of given my work so much soul and so much joy. And as a socially conscious project, and I really wanted to engage them in the process. For my first 3 years of my life before opening an atelier, like when I drop work at their place and go back, there was always coffee and dessert and conversation over what people have said about their work. They've wanted to know the feedback. They wanted the connection with the audience. They wanted to know what people think about their work, because for them, that's what interests me a lot. It's just like, imagine yourself like sitting there for 30 days embroidering a piece, and you just give it away and not hear, like, beside the feedback that I give personally, it's a piece of art. Every single piece takes around from 5 days to months of embroidery, depending on the intensity of it. And they can't go without being recognized, and they can't go without, being in the spotlight. And they also have dreams. I have completely forgot to mention for our audience today that when I first started in my first 3 years, I would work with those women from their homes, and a lot of people still do that. But at some point, I had to bring my production together. So I had to bring the women from the Shouf to come down to Beirut to learn about tailoring and pattern making. We're a fashion brand. We don't just do embroidery. We had to design, cut, sew, trace, draw the illustrations by hand on the pieces. And for that to happen, I had to train more women on different type of skill sets, expanding the job opportunities, not just on an embroidery level, but also on different sides of the brand. So with that, so many dreams for those women are being accomplished. Our main tailor, Widad, spent her entire life tailoring in black and white for religious people. And her first demand on the team was like, I want to work with color. and color it was, you know. So all those people also, you know, due to the circumstances that they live in this part of the world, they don't have much opportunities, you know, to connect and be out there and achieve their dreams. And to see my brand allowing those women to do that and to do that for myself and for all of us, it's just a blessing.
Wow. I just want to share with the audience that for you, this sounds so normal and so the right thing to do, the basic thing to do. But if you look at a lot of, for those of you not familiar with the fashion industry, if you look at a lot of the top designers out there that design work, but then have a whole team of people working on them, the embroidery, the beautiful things that they create, but those people don't really have any, they're not visible at all. They're not part of the entire branding or the entire process. Like if you watch one of those movies that are made about some of the top designers, you see the teams that are working on this like day and night, but you never actually see them in the forefront. And so I just want to highlight how special it is that you actually make them part of your brand and the story, and you appreciate their input and you bring them to the front. I think that's truly beautiful. And that brings me to my next question as well. Can you share us, I'm sure there's like hundreds of magical stories that you hear all the time, but can you maybe share one story that really stood out from working with these artisan women?
Okay, so many beautiful things about my team members. They all are different in the way they work and the way they see life and what they want. They each come to work with us for so many different reasons. I have to say that they've become family. I can't pick up on one story, but I'm gonna pick on one story, which is gonna be linked to the prestigious award thing that you have mentioned. One of our team members have always dreamed of flying. So when I got nominated for the award, although there's a very massive restriction on the religious women in my country, they're banned from traveling, they're not allowed to travel. And she wanted to travel. So I said to the FCA family, I would come for the nomination if I can bring one woman with me. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do that is because I really wanted for people to understand what does it take for us to create a piece. You know, it's so easy to say, oh, this is hand embroidered, but seeing it done and even try and doing it by yourself is a completely different level. And I know that from when people join our workshops and they try, how much patience it needs, how much time it takes. And I was able to take one of my team members with me and fly her with all the hard circumstances. And she was able to meet all these big giants from the fashion industry, Naomi and Pier Paolo and all these fashion designers that you have always dreamt of meeting. And it was an incredible experience. And I think it's also one of the reasons why we won, because I think having a great product is great, but also having a great story and an honest story and an authentic one and making people feel that it's true, that's a different, so like that's another level. So that I would say one of the best stories that have given me a lot of motivation to do what I do, because I really want to create more opportunities for women in this part of the world.
What was it like for you to be in front of a jury like that? It was Naomi Campbell, Diane von Furstenberg, I think Olivia Palermo even was there, and lots more. Were you nervous?
Anna, I was so nervous that I didn't even realize that Victoria Beckham was facing me. You know, I was so like, it was a room for 60 people. I'm so sorry I don't have the photo with me. Oh no, that's it. That's the room. It was very intimidating, Anna, but honestly, I really had like 5 minutes to tell those people why I need to win this award. And seeing Diane von Furstenberg clapping and everyone not just listening to her story, but connecting to it was what made me so happy. And that's a close-up photo of the jury just looking at my clothes and asking me questions. And I have to say, I left the room winning. And I was so concerned because a lot of the women back in Lebanon were so excited and rooting. So yeah, we brought it home.
Wow, such a beautiful moment.
And then incredible opportunities happened, honestly, after winning the Fashion Trust Arabia Award. I was invited by Diane herself to New York, and that's how that was my first experience showcasing my items at her, such a strong woman. And as you mentioned before, through this award, I was able to talk at Majlis Fashion. It makes me happy to see my stuff go all around the world, but comes from here. So yeah.
Really beautiful. We talked through quite a bunch of things. I would love to learn a little bit more about your vision. If you look at your vision 4 years ago and how it is now, would you say it is still aligned?
It is definitely still aligned in terms of concept and what I want, but the product is always developing into a better thing. I'm learning so much. My team is learning a lot. After winning the Fashion Trust Arabia Award, I was able to open my own atelier that allows me to bring those women together. It's a very home looking atelier because I didn't want to change the environment for all these women who've never been in a workspace or all these big fashion houses that makes their employees wear costumes and stuff like that. I created a home literally with the living room for our embroidery room, and a lot of them still work from their place. But coming together, putting the production together has allowed a lot of room for creativity. So we were able to experiment more and, you know, bring all these little patterns and motifs and create this like shape. So the vision is there, and I also started incorporating different type of crafts within our fashion line. We started working with crochet and wool and knitting, and also that is amazing because it also allows me to expand the team, people from different type of skill sets. The vision has been the same, but the product is evolving and forever evolving. Each collection is an opportunity to tell a story. So I basically go with whatever is happening around me as an artist, as a designer. I create being inspired by whatever is going on with the world. And our SS21 that I just showed few photos from happened when we were on lockdown. It was amazing because everyone was still working from their place when a lot of companies closed their doors. So we created a very fresh collection that resembles the darkness that we were in a year ago. And I think Rawan mentioned that's been very difficult for Lebanon, not just, you know, the recent explosion. We've been suffering for a year. So I took that collection as an opportunity to share some, you know, a celebration of life. So I would keep on, you know, being inspired for whatever is going around me moving forward with my vision, as long as it's authentic and true to every stitch.
I have a bunch of questions from the audience, and I'll ask them in a way that will sync up with some of the questions that I still had in mind, and with what some of the things we've already talked about. One question that was asked is, how did people from the village respond to your designs?
So ever since I started doing my master's in Canada and I started wanting to share with the world what happens back in that little village in Shouf, people in the village loved it. For them, they trusted me because they felt like there was that person that's sharing our stories with the world. They wanted to make sure that I'm doing it the right way. I have to say that it has brought a lot of joy, and everyone really appreciates and loves what I do. And I wouldn't necessarily say that people in the mountain would wear my clothes because for them it's like a bit extravaganza, but it doesn't matter. They love it. They understand it. They're super supportive. And it makes me so happy. You know, you can actually tell from my photos because I would actually say that it was very, very, very difficult to build trust. Not a lot of those people at the beginning agreed to be photographed or even appear to the public. It takes a lot of courage from their side to be exposed, and it just happened to us in a very natural way. And I guess my education in Canada has really helped a lot in different ways. And also, you know, being from this part of the world have also helped because I understand the situation and whatever's going on. But most of the time, all the time, actually, it's positive feedback and a lot of support.
Sarah says, Salim, is your team made up of only women?
Yeah, I'm the only man on the team. We're 30 right now. I started off with 3, we're 30. Yeah, I would say I'm the only man on the team.
We've talked a lot about the women, the designs, and everything that you are working on. What is it like doing business for you with your brand in a country such as the US?
Basically, starting a project like this, understanding that what you do is literally couture on a ready-to-wear approach, which takes a lot of time to produce, having to work with the team and hire more women to be able to cater to in an international market took me literally 4 years. So after the award last year, I was able to open the atelier and put the manufacturing together. And this is how we were able to cater to Masters Fashion and Dubai and hopefully different places. We're working on our website. We never had one because we were never able to produce as fast as people wanted us to produce, which is what we don't believe in. We don't believe in fast fashion. We do believe that good things take time. And we only want to go and expand our work based on the demand. And that's going to allow me to hire more team members. So I only ask people to the team when I have a bigger demand on the orders, because I want to keep the stability of the incomes of the already existing employees on the same level. It was very challenging for me I had to learn about managing a business, which is not my thing at all. I'm like, please let me create. Can someone take care of this? But unfortunately, you can't. For the first 3 years, you have to do everything by yourself. Emails, PR, social media, blah, blah, blah. And it takes a village, honestly. But when things they fall in place at some point, and now we have, some people who is helping us a little bit find a way to expand, and would love to be in the US. I'm not there yet, but we're hopefully going to be able to reach the US market through our website, I hope. Right now, we're available at Matches and different places, but yeah, in the right time, in the right place. I always say that.
Wonderful. I want to move on to a question that not as lighthearted as maybe some of the other questions, which relates to the current situation in Lebanon, or actually the situation in Lebanon as a whole. But it's always been very challenging for entrepreneurs and designers to develop and exercise their craft and passions. But with the very recent tragedy, these challenges probably have grown exponentially. How has this affected you and how you do your work?
Establishing something in this region is really difficult, I have to say. Ever since I moved back from Canada, people were like, why would you move back? You have the opportunity to stay there. I signed up to being in this country despite the difficulties, because I wanted to share with the world the beauty of this universe that I'm from. There's a lot of conflicts, and there will always be. And I think it's the same in every single part of the world. There isn't rainbows and sunshine everywhere in the world, but it makes it more difficult. And I always say it takes triple the effort to keep yourself going despite everything. So definitely challenging, but it really when the economical crisis happened and the revolution started, and then the pandemic, and then the explosion happened, it made me feel that the way I work is the best way to go about work, because you're honest with your employees. You want them to keep on working. You're true, and people want to support you. We did not stop one single day of work. Everyone is still working, even with the explosion. Definitely a lot of stress to take in, but to be able to channel that as a creative and transform it into something beautiful. I think I would always, always, always pick up being here and to share the brightest and the most beautiful things about this country that media doesn't share. So I think it's a duty, and I think a lot of people feel the same way about it.
Curious to hear your thoughts and advice on how to foster better creativity in our region, or actually anywhere in the world.
Just do it. Look around and do not disconnect yourself from your surrounding. There is so much going on, and I feel there's so many things that are needed and so many things to highlight. I think talent is great, but when talent merges with a need, I think magic happens. And I think whether you're a designer or not, I think it's just so important to, as a human right now, in times like this, to see how could you possibly help through what you do. And yeah, hopefully beautiful things will come your way. Even if you're not satisfied with your creation, you'll be satisfied with what you're doing and your cause, and you'd go to bed feeling that you've done something great. Just do it.
I like that tagline. I have one more question from the audience that I want to keep last so that people can go and take action after you answer that question. I have one question that I want to ask you. You create these beautiful pieces and you design wonderfully, but you are also very keen on organizing embroidery workshops. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the story is there?
Sure. Sharing some photos here. So I took this photo almost a year ago. It was a talk, and 400 women appeared wanting to join the team. And it gave me a lot of hope. Ever since, been working hard on expanding the team, teaching the women different type of, we always host different type of workshops, expanding the skill sets of the women. And that also trains them to become instructors to teach younger people embroidery. So we sign up with schools, we throw these embroidery workshops occasionally that they're always full, and men even join, and it makes me so happy. So we've been very much busy with that. We started an initiative recently called Majlis, which is a school that I dream of building, which is going to allow me hopefully to build a full-on curriculum to help teach properly the craft for younger generations and make it more accessible and reliable. In the meantime, I also keep on visiting the existing ateliers and supporting all these existing ones that still want to use craft as a way for decorative pieces. So this is also part of our mission. Always something happening in between the collections and the seasons. So it makes me happy.
That brings us to our last question from an audience member before I hand it over to Lara to close out this wonderful and inspiring session. Where can we actually buy your work?
So you can actually find some pieces on Majlis Fashion. Next month, they're going to be in a concept store in Dubai that will also be available online. I signed a contract with Italy, so soon we'll be in Italy, and we're launching our website soon. In the meantime, if you don't find what you like on Majlis, you can direct message us, and the sales team would be more than happy to assist you and deliver anything that you want. You can order and customize things to your own. We like to make things personal, make everyone happy.
Wonderful. Salim, thank you so much again for your inspiring talk. It's wonderful the work that you're doing and how you're impacting your environment, but also inspiring us all. And thank you for your time, especially during these difficult times in Beirut and Lebanon. I'm going to hand it over to Lara, and you will take it from there.
Thank you so much, both of you, Salim and Anas. This was great. Salim, I like to end with one question. What do you want people to take away from this conversation today?
I guess that you can do anything, and I hope it really inspires you to, create and do good things and be good to yourself and, everyone around you, and to be inspired by life. That's what I want them to take.